over 20 schools with a special ed population, but mostly I feel it's important that everybody be a contributing member, and that's why I'm running.
Michael Bailey. All right, so this is actually a question why I'm running that I battled with before deciding to run again. Having, 3 kids under the age of 5, I have my hands full, I work full time, and I've only lived here since 2016, but I chose Walkersville, and we all have. And I love this town, and I love the opportunities that this town can bring, and I love just having the idea of being able to work with 4 other people, 4 other commissioners, town staff, and you all to say, hey, how can we make this better, and becoming a champion for that change. To quote one of my mentors who would always say, change is inevitable, but growth is optional. And I think sometimes we take a mentality where we're scared of growth, and I'm not talking about residential growth, but I'm talking about moving forward with anything. And we're starting to face 21st century problems, and it's time that we come together and come up with 21st century solutions as we work forward. And I think that I would just love to be a part of that, and I have loved every second of being part of it over the past 3 years, and I would love to continue to be part of it, and that's why I'm running again. Thanks.
We'll do 2 mics. Mike McNeish.
Sorry if you see me hobbling, I hurt my knee in Texas, so I need to get it fixed. Why am I running? When my wife and I moved here 10 years ago, we were looking at some different areas in Frederick County. We knew we needed to move, and we didn't really know where, so we asked some people that we knew, and Walkersville ended up on a very short list. When we came here, we loved the community, we loved what we are seeing, we loved the schools that our children ended up in, and 3 years ago, with the turnover of that board, we saw an opportunity that we could contribute to the community, and I could contribute to the community. I felt that my skill set as a military officer and an airline pilot with decision-making being done all the time could help contribute to the community. At this point, the reason I'm running for re-election is, even though I believe that the current board has done a lot of good, I don't think we're done. I think we can do more things to help the community move us forward, and that's why I'm hoping for your vote on Monday. Thank you.
Who really wants to put themselves in front of the public and gather either the derogatory remarks or positive remarks? It's kind of tough, When I first moved here 27 years ago, I found myself in a wonderful little community next to the basically the current Burgess, and sitting in this feed store. I got to know the community. I was kind of a snotty, come up from Montgomery County, Rockville kind of a guy, and all of a sudden I realized that small town was pretty important. Ralph got me involved in planning and zoning, and that just took off. And then I just kept moving up the ladder. Board of Appeals, planning and zoning, and then I decided to run for commissioner. There's a lot of years of experience that I have with all of the different boards that I've been on, and it gives me a broad experience. I've been through decision processes with the Board of Appeals, telling people, no, you can't do that, or yeah, we'll make an exception. Planning and zoning in terms of comprehensive plan, zoning updates, trying to toe the line on growth, and working with all the other residents for, in that fashion, and then as commissioner. And there's a lot of things that goes on in terms of budget processes and so forth and so on. Anyways, I bring a lot of experience. I've always volunteered for anything with the town, again with Marianne, GVA, Scouts. I can't say no. But I'm here again to run back at commissioner level, and I hope everybody will consider voting for me. Thank you.
my next two questions are hot button issues, I think, in the town of Walkersville. So jump into the Planning Commission is currently in the process of updating the town's comp plan. Several owners of farms in and around the town have expressed to be, or have requested to be rezoned for residential development and or annexation into the town. What are your thoughts on residential growth in Walkersville? And I will start with Mr. Gilbert.
Residential growth is probably the number one concern of town people, and I understand that. It is for me. It shows up in comments during the 10-year comprehensive plan. It shows up in other places. I understand there's a faction of people, a community people, attempting to label the candidates, whether they're either pro-growth or anti-growth. I find this somewhat of a disruption to the process. Nobody has approached me, and I don't feel I fit either one. Better stated, pro-growth that is measured and controlled. There should be plans in place for adequate schools, roads, and infrastructure. For the past 3 years, I've been assigned to be the liaison of the commissioners to the Planning and Zoning Commission. That commission works hard to protect the town. It asks hard questions. It seeks and demands adequate control in building codes. There's been very little audience participation in our process, especially from town people. There are some candidates that speak no growth as their platform. Some use this as their only platform, and I find that disappointing. I will point out that some of these are saying this from the porches of homes that 20 or 30 years ago were developed from cornfields. Again, I'm not sure we can have it both ways. I would consider growth that is measured and controlled while conditioned on adequate roads, schools, and infrastructure when the time comes. Thank you.
We'll just come on down the line again, and I'll ask Mary Ann Brody Ennis to jump up and answer the question.
Mr. Yoder, there's water over there if you want to water it.
Thank you.
I think we all knew that question was going to be coming tonight because it is the hot button topic of this election, and with a comprehensive plan, planning going on with Planning Commission. So I want to say, the first thing I want to say is that I try and attend as many Planning Commission workshops as I can, so that gives me a firsthand experience and opportunity to hear what the citizens that come to those meetings, there have been a couple, not a lot, what they want. And we also have the opportunity to get emails from people concerning growth. So I want to be an informed person. I really am an advocate to maintain our agricultural buffer. I will say that I don't always agree with my spouse in terms of growth. But I do appreciate what Tom said about smart growth. I don't want to see a lot of residential development in this town because, like all of us, we like the small town feel, and I like that small town where I know a lot of people. So I'm not a advocate of a lot of growth, but probably a little more smart growth. I know that's a classic phrase, but
Michael Bailey.
no worries.
Yeah, I promise I'm not trying to take her out here. No. So yeah, I think one of the reasons that, we're having this conversation tonight is part of it is the comprehensive plan, and many people are informed, much more informed than they would have been 3 years ago. And that's because we are video recording these meetings and we're putting them on Facebook and we're putting them out there. And it's allowing you all to understand where we are and then where we're going. So I just want to highlight that. My personal position on growth and my position on growth residentially within the town is that at this time, I'm not in support of any additional residential growth. I'm not going to go as far as to call myself anti-growth because that's just not who I am. But I think that over the past 5 years, we've had 4 additional developments come into our town, and we're blessed to have them as residents of this town. Because unless you live, in downtown, in the older part of town, where you live is a byproduct of development. Now, with that being said, those developments that have come in, I think we've seen some of the stress on the infrastructure that the town has. We've seen the stress on 194. We've seen the increased where Walkersville High is over 100% capacity. Our elementary and middle schools are hovering at 80%. And we need to take a pause and take a deep breath and see over the next 10 years, I think is a fair amount of time to look at the infrastructure we have, to work with county and state officials to expand infrastructure, and then take a look and see where we are in 10 years from now. So with the question at hand is the comprehensive plan. If it comes to me, if I'm so fortunate to be reelected, I will not support any additional residential growth at this time. Thank you.
Mr. McNeese will ask you to come up on, that's on me.
Yeah, it's all good. I can do it. So a limitation of this format is once you get about 3 people in, you basically you've heard everything you want to hear. When I moved to Walkersville, my family and I moved to Walkersville, one of the things that really drew us was that I'd turn out of my development and I hit farms. And I turned left and I hit farms, and then I hit residential, then I hit, developed area. And my house was one of those, previous 30 years ago was a cornfield. As Commissioner Bailey said, our schools can't support additional residential development. I grew up in Montgomery County in Rockville. I remember from when Rockville to Gaithersburg was all farming community. You can't find a green area anymore in 30 years. I don't want to see that for Walkersville. So I'm pretty firmly anti-residential development. There will need to be a lot of changes before I would be willing to change my mind. But I'm never going to say never because that'd be foolish. Thank you.
Bob Yoder.
So my position on residential or growth in the town, I can tell you, as I stated, I've been here 35 years. Infrastructure hasn't changed in 35 years. What's changed in 35 years is we have a lot more housing. And that's the biggest concern. So when you ask a direct question, I will not dance. Direct answer, I do not support any residential growth. I do believe the town needs to start thinking about some of the commercial spaces that we have sitting around here for years, and I mean years. They need to be cleaned up, or maybe we look at what Frederick City is trying to do about blighted property. It will be challenged in courts, I know it will, but you know what? That's the way things get changed. Blighted properties needs, and Frederick City's looking to put a 10% tax on them every year until they're taxed out and they have to be run down and fixed up. Too many commercial properties in this town need to be cleaned up. I'm opposed to any residential growth until we start seriously thinking about what we're going to do for infrastructure. 194 can't take anymore. Myself, I went out Biggs Ford Road the other day and was stuck at the Monocacy Bridge just trying to get on 15. Because the people who live in Walkersville know don't even waste your time going out 194 in the morning when the schools start, which is another issue I'll talk about later. Thank you.
Mr. Winch.
Always last. July 13th, planning and zoning. I was the only one on the member that said no to every single request or proposal for growth. I come bearing charts. Maryland Department of Planning shows Walkersville being the 7th fastest growing municipality out of 181 in the state of Maryland. That's unbelievable. A stance on growth, I pulled out my old election brochure in 2009. I still said the same thing, no growth. Preserve our farmlands, ensure the rural buffer that we have around here. So now, yeah, we cannot stand any further growth because, you know, I understand about the infrastructure, but that's not going to change. We're not in any kind of an area that the state is going to spend any money on. 194 is going to stay the way it is for a long, long time. I know it's been given some priority by Jan, but we're not going to get the money. So what has to happen? Stop the growth. Now, 194 traffic is going to remain the same. I want to see the commercial properties redeveloped. Markio is going to be a problem. We have one major landowner here with commercial property that isn't going to do anything other than keep that commercial property as a tax loss for him to write off lands and other properties. We got to find a way to turn that around. But anyways, no more growth. That's plain and simple. Thank you.
Okay, my next question, I heard somebody cheer when someone talked about it earlier, is sidewalks. I've received a lot of questions myself from residents about sidewalks. So what are your views on the state of sidewalks in the town of Walkersville, how to handle sidewalk repairs, and address the maintenance, ongoing maintenance of the town sidewalks in the future? And try to fit that into 2 minutes. And I'm going to ask Mr. Lynch to come back.
Oh my goodness, I got a whole section here in my book. Sidewalks, town responsibility, plain and simple. We have I'm not sure if anybody knows. Who knows who our town insurance company is? It's called Legit. Legit says there is no way that for a town to escape its responsibilities to handle repairs of the sidewalk. The town has been negligent in repair of sidewalks for many years. It's actually an interesting little term. I think probably Chad's going to laugh at me because I'm not a lawyer, I'm just a professional engineer. But desuetude, which basically means that in some cases it's been brought around that if law or ordinance has not been acted upon in ever, then it really becomes null and void. Maybe that's the case, I don't know, but I'd fight for that. We need to have the sidewalks worked on. They're troublesome, and just to let everybody know, a homeowner on the abutting property cannot be sued for any fault that is imposed by what that is Maryland law. So if we have a bad sidewalk, unless the problem is you planted a tree root comes up, then that's your problem. But if the sidewalk is just not maintained by the town, you trip and fall, Maryland's law says you are not at fault, the town is at fault. Right now, the town is at amazing risk for lawsuits and needs to be acted on immediately. Thank you.
Mr. Yoder.
The issue of sidewalks in Walkersville. Well, some of you maybe see my wife and I walking around in this town. Walking town. And I can tell you the sidewalks are in bad shape. I'm surprised some of them don't even file ADA compliance, which surprised me. I believe sidewalks should be a town responsibility. That's where I stand on that. Plain and simple. No different than curbs and streets, lighting. It's all part of the infrastructure. I think there ought to be a plan to go forward. I don't think it's a big bang theory that just says, hey, dump all this money. There ought to be a comprehensive plan for sidewalks, how to migrate, how to work your way through it. But I do believe, as I stated, when a builder goes in to build, they need to put the curbing, they need to put the sidewalks in place then. We already see what Parkside looks like. I believe the town spent all that money for storm drainage down there, but you still drive down there, what? The development's done. I don't know what's going on. I think that should be fixed. There should be a sidewalk going from the bowling alley all the way down past the churches. There's no reason for what's there and what's going on. The town should pay for them.
Mr. McNeese.
You can find equal number of people in town that think the town should pay for sidewalks, and you can find the same amount of people that think the homeowner should pay for sidewalks, because that's what the code says. The code has said that since 1999. Before Commissioner Bailey and I rewrote the sidewalk, he did the primary writing and I did some assistance, that code had not been updated in 20 years. Any commissioner that served during that time bears responsibility for the condition of the sidewalks, for the non-enforcement of the code. Now, we are compromising now. Some of the commissioners think that we should pay for the sidewalks. Some commissioners do not. Commissioner Bailey, a few months ago, proposed a cost share, which I think most commissioners got on board with, including the town picking up the ADA portion of the payment. I believe moving forward, that is where we should go. I think it should be a cost share. I don't think that citizens who failed to do their part in following the code should be rewarded with a full brand new sidewalk at town expense and other taxpayers. Thank you.
Next we'll have Mr. Bailey.
I just want to make sure they know who's talking.
Okay. No, thank you. Yeah, sidewalks. So for me, when I took office, as Commissioner McNeish stated, the code hadn't been touched since 1999, and it was very vague and lacking specificity. So the very first thing we did is we defined what a bad sidewalk was. We gave property owners due process to be able to appeal a determination that their sidewalk was determined to be bad, and we formed part of the code allows homeowners to allow the town to do the work through a contract that would be cheaper and that they can pay the town over time. Unfortunately, we know that sidewalks are still an issue. And again, there are some who believe that the town should pay 100%. There are others who believe that it should be a cost share. I'm open, I just want something to get done. I'm open to either option. So I think where we go from here is important, because I think we know that the sidewalks are bad, but it's important to understand where are the bad sidewalks. So part of my plan, if reelected, is to come up with a 10-year comprehensive plan, a 10-year infrastructure plan that first identifies where are all the bad roads and sidewalks, look at all of them, determine where they are, and then we can make data-based decisions. And we should have continual public hearings, because if the town pays for your sidewalks, your taxes will go up. If the town doesn't pay for your sidewalks, your taxes will remain the same. And that's the calculus that you have to play with. Do you want to pay more in taxes and have the town incur that cost? Or do you want a 50-50 cost share where the town will say, we'll chip in 50%, y'all chip in 50%, still have that payment plan, and if it's an ADA issue, the town's going to take care of it. But I'm open to hearing what y'all think, and I just want something to get done, and I think maybe making these data-driven decisions will help. Thanks.
Next we'll ask Mary Ann Brody Ennis to come up.
Do I need to get more chairs out? I didn't want to keep turning around.
Wow, isn't this another hot button topic? Sidewalks, and we have been talking about sidewalks a lot. And we have been bantering about sidewalks a lot, because as you've heard, we all don't agree. But I think we are a group that did compromise, that sidewalks are expensive. And I will tell you, the town has started repairing areas where it's not the homeowner's responsibility, and I can give that example. In Gladetown, there were two places where the sidewalks were not specifically, that I could think off the top of my head, two places where the sidewalks were not safe for people to walk. There was a drop of 4 inches between the storm drain and the sidewalk, and I brought it up to the town manager and Public Works, and they went out and fixed it, because that wasn't the homeowner's responsibility. So It is something that I agree that it needs to be cost shared because it's such an expensive proposition. It also needs to be planned, which our public works director is starting to look at the sidewalks in all the communities and coming up with a plan. He's also doing that with the roads. So he's already started that process for us. It'll take a little while because public works is very busy. They have a lot to do. That's what I have to say.
Next, we'll have Tom Gilbert come up and answer.
My position is that in some sidewalks in town are likely 75 to 100 years old. They are part of households who have been paying taxes to that town for those same 75 or 100 years. I position to repair these, suggesting, but not tied to, at least a 50% cost share and giving a year for the homeowner to pay their share. Could go higher. Think about it. If the town were budgeting $100,000, we could then couple with the homeowner, and this would amount to $200,000 of sidewalks a year. The cost to replace a 4x4 slab, take it out and replace it, is about $110. The $200,000 represents 1,820 slabs, or 7,300 linear feet. The Glade Village is only about a half a mile round. This would take 1.25 miles of sidewalk in the 1,800 slabs. But it's something to think about. I'm not sure we have 1.25 miles that need restoration. And it shouldn't be Old Town versus the outside of Old Town. I've heard that argument. Someday, the newer developments are going to need sidewalks. I mean, it's just a matter of time. All sidewalks will need to be eventually replaced. We need to get something done. I've tripped on them years ago, 5 years ago, and came to the town commissioners. They did nothing. And that was one of the things I wanted to try and get done. We're trying to get it done. And it continues to be on my list.
Okay, my next question is dealing with commercial properties. Over the past few years, the town has seen several commercial properties developed or approved for development. At the same time, several properties, including a lot of Walker's Village Shopping Center, continue a long history of vacant storefronts and a failure to maintain their properties. How do you feel the town can address commercial development and maintenance issues of vacant commercial properties? And I will start with Mr. McNeish.
I would say that this is one area where I didn't quite, wasn't quite as successful as some others in my term. I got into the election last year, or last term, based on what the public uproar over Rudders. And primarily there was a lot of, the reason for that was there was a lot of miscommunication of what the town could and couldn't do in relation to commercial properties. The same thing is happening with the Dollar General right now. When we have commercial properties, they are allowed to be developed by whoever decides to buy the commercial property. As long as they follow the town code, we have very little input in the matter. And a lot of people aren't aware of this. As for the blighted properties, we're also hamstrung with what we can and can't do. I had a pretty steep learning curve. I came in with all these like, hey, let's do this, let's do this. And the more senior members of the board and the Burgess with his leadership kind of said, you know, slow your roll, you really can't do it that way. And we've been working on it. Commissioner Bailey has some good ideas with some blighted property moving forward. Hope that he gets reelected, that we can see those things. And I hope to make some improvement on that matter too. Thank you.
Mr. Yoder, if you could come up and give us your answer.
I wish I had the magic answer for that.
Don't we all?
Commercial property, the issue is pretty deep. I think it's pretty complex. I think there's a lot of legal issues about it. I think it's going to be challenged in the courts, but I believe that we should look for other areas and other towns, other cities who's taken this Goliath manner on. It's unbelievable how long these developers can sit on things and use them. Look, I've done taxes, I understand that. They're looking for losses, they're not going to do anything with them. We as a town have to figure out a better strategy against them. Tax incentives may be one. I know all over the country when I built buildings, I've met with governors, I've met with county executives, and I can tell you, we didn't build and bring 1,000 or 2,000 people employment to an area unless we were getting tax incentives. Maybe that's what we got to look at, tax incentives. But I do believe we have to find an alternative solution to either continue to charge, put a surcharge on their taxes on these properties because we're losing the revenue from them. Like I said, Frederick City's already started and they're going to probably go through the court battle. We need to file that. We need to get in contact with them, find out if that's something we want to do in our town. We got to do something. As far as development commercial, if it's commercial, I agree previously. We've already zoned it. Whoever buys it can build and do what they want. Don't cry afterwards. Express your concerns before it happens. That's all I have. Am I going to serve my time, Jim?
Sure, after I clear it.
Mr. Wayne?
The state of Maryland puts a high premium on property owners' rights, both residential and commercial. Very difficult to cause blighted properties to be changed. Frederick's been working on it for decades. One of the most successful anti-blight programs was handled in Hagerstown. The city actually had to go out and buy the properties, redo them and resell them. I worked, my entire time I was commissioner, I was on the MML, which is the Maryland Municipal League, which is the municipality's voice to the General Assembly of Maryland. I was vice president my last term, and I was 2 terms president, and we looked at that extensively. I actually worked with Senator Young on trying to draft some legislation on blight. His legislation got knocked down in the assembly and it didn't go through. It's a difficult process for us to be able to deal with any sort of blight, whether homeowner or commercial business. What needs to be done, though, is to convince at least our largest blight spot, which is our shopping center, that we can actually bring business in and turn his mind around from it being for him at a tax loss, which is what I think, to something that he can use to bring to bring better businesses in. But that's part of an economic development program. We need to promote the town. We don't do that. We need to put together everything that will take businesses to say, we want to come into this town. You know, everybody worries about the low-end businesses. Well, unfortunately, a lot of the residents don't patronize the businesses that we have in town, and they come and go. Businesses want to see that they've got people in here that will go to their establishments and spend their money. And the more that happens, the more money is spent by the residents in town and those coming through on this big road 194, the more that people want to place their businesses in town. And I think that Tamarkia would change his mind. Thank you.
Mr. Gilbert?
I'm going to surprise you all and say I really don't have an answer, but I'm willing to listen. Tax credits to entice fixing or maintaining have been mentioned. I'm a fan of free market without government intervention because I think the government will only mess it up. And there's tax money that's going out that probably won't be used correctly. I think there will be businesses come in if they see an opportunity to produce a profit. And I think that's a position I'd like to take. But again, I'm willing to listen to other opportunities out there. But I just have a hard time thinking somebody runs their business in the ground for a tax loss, because that's a real loss. I have a hard time accepting that. I was in banking for 37 years and never talked to somebody saying they operated their business as for a tax loss. I think the opportunity would be out there for businesses to come in if they saw an opportunity to come in and make a profit. And surely the man would, you're talking about the shopping center, surely he would be open to renting out businesses to generate more income. But again, I'm willing to listen and consider ideas about taking care of blighted properties.
Mary Ann, for the Ennis.
Yeah, that's one of the topics that's been around for a long time. Before I was a commissioner, David and I would come to a lot of the meetings, and that was a topic of conversation, and it is a challenge. I will say that Commissioner Bailey has put in, and we passed an upcoming economic development commission. So hopefully that'll help in PRing the town and getting more businesses here. And I hope that they work with the Walkersville Professional Business Association, because that would be a good partnership to help to potentially get more businesses and advertise local businesses so people in town and even out of town will patronize those businesses. Blighted property, I, with Commissioner Gilbert, am open to listen. It's a challenge, and I don't have an answer right now. But it is something that I feel like the next board will continue to try and get an answer for us. I do know that one of the properties that people are concerned with, one of the commercial properties, the town has been working with the owners to try and get it up and going again. So the town is willing to work with the owners of the property, and hopefully some of the owners are willing to work with the town.
Next we'll have Mr. Bailey.
All right. So let's talk about the happy path and then the unhappy path with blighted and vacated properties. So like the other commissioners mentioned and candidates mentioned, last month we did pass an Economic Development Commission. I think this is our happy path. This gives us the opportunity to first ask the question of local businesses that are here, how can we support you? Also looking at businesses that are not yet here and say, why aren't you here yet? We need to identify the barriers of why businesses are not coming into town. And then the EDC can craft a plan that the town can enact in order to bring those businesses into those vacant properties. And of course, we will work with the local, county, and state economic development leaders because they have the subject matter expertise to help us accomplish that. All right, I got 1 minute to talk about the unhappy path. So for residents or property owners that are resistant to making any kind of change, and we all know who we're talking about, we have to look at what has been upheld in the courts. And over my first term, when I came in, I was balls to the wall. Let's do it now. Let's get it done. But it was important to understand what had actually been upheld in the courts. And it's two things: receivership, where the town acquires and buys the property, and taxes and fines put on to the property owners. We should resist this option at all costs, but we should keep it open. So I have drafted legislation that would do just that, where if a property remains vacant for 3 years, they would start incurring a fine, and that fine would increase exponentially year after year, where a tax write-off would be less appealing than the fine that they would incur through the town. So that's what I've done and what I would hope to do if given the opportunity to serve. Thanks.
Would you mind letting people know the restrooms are back there?
Oh, yes. If you need to use the facilities, they're right here behind me. And I'm going to skip to my last question before we have closing statements. And that is, it's a little bit different than what I sent you, but pretty much the same. What do you see as the most pressing issue facing the town of Walkersville that we have not discussed tonight?
You sent us questions.
You said we didn't get questions.
Hmm?
We didn't get questions.
We didn't get questions.
I sent an email this morning. We didn't get them.
didn't-
Okay.
These are all surprises to
Oh,
us.
that's great. Well, that's the way I prefer it, because I come from the 4-H background where extemporaneous responses are what we love.
How about?
And you all have done great. Very good. I'm proud of you, Michael, for knowing that.
I'm from West Virginia.
Yeah.
So it's,
You have a great 4-H camping program in West Virginia. So what do you see as the most pressing issue facing the town of Walkersville, and how do you propose addressing it? It can be something we discussed, but I would prefer if it's something that we have not discussed this evening. I was going to have you go first.
okay. Let's do it.
So we'll have Michael Bailey come up.
So of the items that we haven't discussed tonight, what I'm most concerned about is the financial status of our water plant. We are very blessed and have a state-of-the-art, award-winning water treatment facility within the town. With that, when we came into office, there were some incidental costs that we did not know were coming down the pipeline. And what we've seen over the past 3 years is that our water rates are the lowest in the county, and they're going to have to go up. And I'm concerned about the financial solvency of the water fund. And just quick side note, the water fund is separate than tax money. Tax money doesn't go to the water fund. It's a separate business that the town operates. So I'm concerned with that, and I think that the solution that I've been gearing towards, as y'all have seen, we've had to enact a $100 a year assessment on each of you, on all of us, because we all pay for it. I want to get rid of the flat fee, and I look forward to, if reelected, looking at what the data shows of how much it costs to operate the plant. We know that rates are going to have to go up, but they should be in an increasing scale. We'll have to increase the base rate, but let's use those facts and figures to not make it where someone who uses the minimum amount is paying $100 and someone who's in an industrial complex is paying the exact same flat fee. So that's my biggest concern right now, is that financial solvency and wanting to get away from this flat rate and more of a tiered approach based upon usage. And if you visit my Facebook page, I've got flyers back there. I have a write-up about kind of that being my concern, and where I'm going to lean heavily on my expertise with data management and using the data to come up with a solution, and hopefully Mr. Gilbert with his financial background and others who have financial backgrounds. So thank you.
I'll ask Mr. McNeish to come up.
What he just said. That is, the water plant is going to be a primary concern moving forward. But in addition to that, with the things that Commissioner Bailey said, we have a lot of technological improvements coming to the town. New website, new servers, new computer equipment. All those need to be implemented. That's going to be an issue. One of the other things I'm concerned about is, based on the decision making on Monday, are you going to see a continuation of the moving forward in the town and the community that this board has done, or are you going to see us return to the status quo of lack of communication with its citizens and no way information shared? So I do believe that will be an issue moving forward as well.
Mr. Yoder.
Surprise questions are always best. So sitting there thinking about how do I feel? I look around, I see everybody sitting here, most of them have smartphones. I'm concerned about the communication this town has. Our website, okay, we'll say poor. I did this for a living, so I can say poor. I don't know why, we have the wire, great, somebody gets an email. I don't think most of the people live on email anymore. Texting is where it's at. You can send links out to people's phones, they can click on them, they can get information. I tried to look up some just basic information about our code and code compliancy. Try searching that on our website. It's a joke. Sorry, it is. That has to be improved. That's the way the world is going. I think that's the new generation. Even the older generations adapted to that technology. They want it now, they want to see it, they don't want to wait. I'll give you an example. The other day, the commissioners moved the meeting. I was scheduled, I was somewhere else. I was like, okay, I'll just Facebook in. Oh no, we can't. Facebook's down, we're not there, we moved upstairs. 24-hour notice is not going to be the future anymore. You've got to be forward thinking, you've got to be out there ahead. People want to know what's going on. And I think communication is the biggest thing that's got to change. I welcome the ideas that I hear about. We're going to upgrade our servers, upgrade the website. Okay? I heard some of that stuff 3 years ago. I think that needs to happen now, and it needs to move forward. One other concern, I thought I had time saved. Thank you.
We'll give you a few more minutes when
Okay.
when you're closing statement. Mary Ann Bergianis.
So I'm gonna say what two other commissioners said, because I'm fiscally cheap. That's what some people call fiscally responsible, but I'm cheap. And water fund is a concern because the water plant, the reverse osmosis water plant that we have, one thing it does, it gives us the best water, and I will say Walkersville just got the award for best water in this whole state of Maryland, thanks to our public works and everybody that came forward. So anyway, so it is the water fund that has me most concerned. And one of the things that I think if I'm elected and whoever's elected, we're gonna look at is we spend a lot of money giving it to the county with the runoff from the water plant. So it would be nice if we could come up with something that treats our own water and we don't have to give that money to the county, and that potentially could save us money in the long run. So that is something that concerns me, and that might be a partial solution. Thank you.
Next, I'll ask Russ Williams to come up.
So I agree with the current commissioners about the water fund, so that's a good thing to work on. So to tag on with that communications and with Mr. Yoder, I did build the Facebook page, and I was the one that got our first website done. I think it's still a good website. It's a WordPress base with a online merchant backbone that hasn't been utilized. I'd like to see the residents be able to have some online stuff. I don't think depositing checks and coming to town hall to reserve a spot there at the park is really 21st century anymore. But I think the big concern right now, probably near and dear to Mike's heart, is I'd like to see. I don't think we have a good cybersecurity profile for our water plant for our town. Unfortunately, I won't be around on Monday for the election because I'll be out at Idaho National Laboratory doing in a classified environment cybersecurity training and practices. But that all comes down to the ongoing threats that the United States has with small towns. Water plants are targeted tremendously. Towns have been basically hijacked. So I'd like to see us probably take a little bit of effort, monies to increase our cybersecurity profile. I think that'll be very important. But all of this together, communication stuff is part of that presence, and we need to make sure that we look deep into that. Thank you.
Next, Mr. Gilbert.
I'm getting my steps in tonight. The most pressing issue, I think Mary Ann was looking at my notes because her and Bailey, I agree with both of them. What wasn't made clear through Mike's presentation, I think, but Mary Ann stepped on it, was where our costs are where we're incurring significant costs is handling the wastewater. And that has, gee whiz, when we got into office 1 month, within a month, we were handed a $1.9 million bill from Frederick County so that we could discharge water off of this new plant into their system. And we had to come up with a way to pay it, or they were going to not approve us to continue constructing the plant. And after the plant, now we're faced with increasing costs, and it's up to something like $270,000 a year, and maybe next year it goes to $300,000 to send effluent through the system. And that value keeps going up and up and up. So what we've considered or knocked around a little bit is looking at maybe constructing our own wastewater treatment plant and trying, it would be costly, but in the long run, we might be able to decrease those costs. Finally, just as an aside, I wanted to share, if I may, a big wild hope, and that is, look, I've been looking around for the last year or two for a senior center, for us to construct a senior or community center for the town of Walkersville, that seniors won't have to take an elevator or come up those steps, but they want to meet here. That's where they meet now, but they haven't since COVID. But Walkersville can do much better for their seniors and even the new people coming on. They'll look for a community center as well. So I just want to throw that out there as a big hope.
Well, that's the end of my prepared questions. And before I let them conclude, I just want to say that I've had the pleasure of knowing all of these candidates. They're wonderful people. We might not always agree on issues, but their heart is there. They're wonderful people. Chad is running unopposed, but another wonderful, dedicated public servant. So I hope everyone comes out Monday evening, or Monday from 11 to 7, correct?
Right.
I'll be there in the evening to vote right here at Town Hall. So each candidate will be given 3 minutes to close for the evening. Afterwards, you all can mingle and meet the candidates and ask any questions you'd like. So first, I will call up Mike McNeish.
So up until this point, I really haven't said of what I've done for the community in my term, but now to go ahead and address some of those things that might back up the traits of the leader I mentioned earlier. For those of you who follow me on social media or don't follow me on social media, that is, a reminder of what I said before the last election, before what was important to me is I highlighted communication and improving it, financial responsibility, and public safety. And I hope to keep improving on these topics. Based on my research during this term, I identified a history of the town hoarding your tax dollars to the tune of approximately $500,000 a year for the last 15 to 20 years. I suggested some ways to fix it, including a tax reduction. So this board passed a 12.5% property tax reduction for you. I've been advocating since the beginning of my term for an additional state trooper. We are getting one. I hope for more in the future. Assistant Commissioner Bailey, I helped rewrite the sidewalk code, which had not been updated since 1999, in order to see some action on the sidewalk. I researched, presented, and helped implement the Walkersville Wire, which has over almost 1,000 users currently. That represents a significant number of the households in town. It does have the ability to text people already, but who wants their phones to be blown up with texts as we get some from people we don't know already. This system has Facebook, email, and text all intertwined. It represents an exponential increase with the information sharing of the town. For the citizens that don't use social media or electronic means, at the last meeting I brought up Channel 99 and we had a discussion on the re-implementation of that for other seniors or for the senior group of the community, and hopefully we can improve communication that way. Additionally, I advocated for a large increase in spending for our town parks, which I think are one of our greatest assets in town. We are seeing the efforts in the community and soon Creamery Park. I hope to continue that process. I suggested and supported benefits increases for our town staff who regularly get recognized for their work excellence for minimal cost. And I relayed multiple citizen requests to the town for public safety improvements, including crosswalks and children at play signs. I worked with State Highway on road safety and sidewalk installation. I supported Commissioner Gilbert's senior tax credit and retirement incentive proposed by him. I'm the only commissioner with school-aged children, so I have a vested interest in our schools. I'm the only veteran or currently serving military member on the board. And we still are going to spend the money appropriately. I know some people have heard that we did spend all our reserve. We haven't spent really any of our reserve. We've maintained the town's finances. Instead of putting the money in the bank, we spent it on you. I hope I've earned your support. Hope to see you Monday.
Mr. Gilbert.
I want to backtrack for a second. In my opening, I got kind of cut off a little bit, but you could say, Tom, you haven't gotten anything done with the blighted properties, and we've mentioned that tonight. One thing I did discover when I got into office is that we are hampered, really hampered by personal property rights in attempting to deal with houses showing blight. Mr. Winch has mentioned that too tonight. It's just very difficult to get done. You followed Frederick, and they've had a lot of problems. But we'll continue to work on that. I want to refer you to my handout that I brought tonight. I encourage you to pick one up. You'll see my roots are in Walkersville, have been for generations. You've seen that I live in Glade Village for 40 years with my wife for 43 years, over 43 years. You'll see I'm much involved in the community, involved in the fire company, involved in the ambulance company, sit on committees there. So I'm very much involved in my church. Some of the initiatives I've developed for the town are highlighted on that sheet back there. We talked about the senior tax credit, the long-term disability program for the employees. A motion for the town we were one of the only, if not the only municipality in Frederick County that did not celebrate or give recognition to Martin Luther King's birthday. I introduced that, and it passed 4-1 to give town employees off for that day. We don't have that black eye anymore. Talked about developing the retirement incentive policy that gives us a heads up on people who are planning to retire and helps us to get that covered. And we have instance right now that we're working through, one of the town employees. People describe me as caring, cautious, generally courteous, a planner, well organized, take time to prepare well, will admit when I'm wrong, usually cool-tempered unless I shank a few on the golf course. And in summary, I believe I've done well for Walkersville as a commissioner these last 3 years, and I look forward to serving you the next 3 years if you elect me. Thank you and good evening.
Next, I'll ask Russell Lynch to come up.
Comes around, goes around. I'm impressed that the current board of commissioners worked on some of the issues reminiscent of the same kinds of things that I worked on with the boards as well. I spoke about sidewalks many times when I was a commissioner. And as I said, communications, I worked on websites, the website development, started the Facebook page. Suggested we had monthly mailings out to the community, so communication always held dear. But it goes farther in terms of what everybody does. Like I said, I was working on MML, vice president, president 2 terms, trying to work on blight for the town. We went through those issues on the Planning and Zoning Commission, which is really where it needs to start before it gets into a legislative process. Also, not only all the terms that I've had here with the Board of Appeals, Planning and Zoning, and as elected commissioner for 10 years, but I also took the time to take personal time at MML to study the Academy of Excellence for Public Service. So, we had to go in and study municipal code, policing, communications, and so forth. And that, even though it was a fun event down in Ocean City where we go, but it's still having to take the classes, learn, and go through the process, which takes several years. So that was actually a certificate that you get from University of Maryland through their public College Park, the public school of the School of Public Policy. In terms of the water plant, when we were working on that, I did already research the filtration concentration for effluents. So that was something that was on the horizon. So there is a solution for that. It costs a lot of money. It was the city of Chicago, if I remember correctly, that implemented a lot of that. In any case, I got my big experience. I've been here for a while. Love the town. Would love to be able to get into the commissioner position again so I can bring my experience to the residents of Walkersville. Thank you.
Next, I'll ask Michael Bailey to come up.
All right, so tonight you've heard about how I make decisions, who I am as a person, what I'm passionate about, and what I've done over my first term. And I want to thank those who voted for me in the last election and gave me this opportunity to serve. Aside from working on the sidewalk code and the EDC and drafting legislation, which is my passion, as weird as it sounds, I've enjoyed every moment that I've spent working with the other commissioners and the Burgess who are sitting up here. But foremost, a lot of the things that we do as commissioners aren't, aside from upgrading the servers, which the servers are upgraded, we made that decision. We're making a decision on redoing the site and the code. We have a communications coordinator, a part-time person hired specifically to handle communications. We have already taken action in closed meeting to enhance our cybersecurity posture within the town with regards not just to the water plant, but to our parks and our town in general. And all of these things are great, but I think the thing I most enjoy is when someone emails me and says, Michael, my son tripped on this piece of curb that is, uncanny, or that's not the right word, but this curb that's broken. what can you do about it? Or someone who says, Michael, we feel like Potomac Edison is not listening to us. And working one-on-one with community members and getting their concerns addressed, whether it's fixing a curb or whether it's drafting a letter to the big man up at Potomac Edison saying that we really need them to do their work and we need them to make investments in the town and acting on behalf of you all. And that's the thing that I'm most passionate about, and it's what I'm most proud of, is often the work that goes unseen. With that, if you'll take a look at my brochure in the back, I do have a list of things that I've led as well as things that I've supported. And the board members that sit up here, I am in support of 100%. They are all great people. The work that Marianne has done with the parks, which is near and dear to my heart, I try not to step on her toes too much, but the parks are the crown jewel of this town, and it is what will continue to be the crown jewel of this town, as well as hopefully getting some good businesses in here, some like small scale coffee shops, doesn't have to be Dunkin', ice cream shops, sandwich shops, and I think we can accomplish that with the EDC. So all that being said, I've loved every second of what I've done over the past 3 years. I'm proud of the work that I've done for you all, and I hope you all have seen that and will give me your vote on Monday. Thanks.
Bob Mueller.
Is this where I get my extra time back?
All 3 minutes.
Good evening. It's been an interesting night. I'm quite surprised about the questions. So one of the things I talked about in my experience is building infrastructures and doing projects all over the place. I have extensive background in that area. And you heard already tonight that some of the commissioners were surprised that they received this astronomical bill for a water plant. So to me, that's project planning. That is what I call the God in the details. You do a CBA, you do an ROI. CBA, cost benefit analysis, ROI, return on investment. You don't go into a project spending X dollars if you don't know what your true costs are. That's the God in the details. That's reading the proposals, meeting with the people who are going to give you the contracts that you need to go through. Not have kicked the can down the road for 3 years, 4 years, and now you're looking at these issues and saying, what are we going to do? Woe's me, I'm sorry. That's the background I have. Somebody mentioned tonight that, I think it was Tom, is the senior center. This town is way behind in that area. I personally have gone to other counties and other towns and participated in their senior centers. Wonderful places for gathering of people. I want to stay on communications. I'm glad the town's moving forward, but it's taken 3 years to move forward. We need to move faster. Channel 99, it's been off the air. I have no idea why. Nobody seems to know. It's easy. I don't know why. Comcast gives it to us. That's a concern. Another concern I have is when I go through the budget. I can't believe some of the numbers. And if you look at them, you look at year to year, it's like, really? Is that what's there? There's not enough meat there. I'm a God in the details person. I want to know where the real money is, where it's going. I don't know how we've converted to LED lights now. Lighting budget's the same for street lights. How is that possible? We did a cost benefit analysis on it? I thought it was going down. I thought we were getting money back. How is the lighting cost staying the same? Traffic and speeding in this town has got to be corrected. We talk about we've got 6 officers in this town. Sitting out at the church on Biggsford Road is not solving the neighborhood problems. Letting traffic back up on 194 when the school opens is not solving the problems. We all knew the school was open. We should have our officer out there helping. Last thing is code enforcement has to take place. We pay for code enforcement personnel in this town. They need to go out there. If I can walk and see violations, they sure can drive around the town car and see it. And please vote for me. Thank you.
Mary Ann Brody Ennis will give the final closing statement.
That's a long name to say, isn't it?
I love it.
Oh, you're so kind. Thanks. So I've been sitting over there. I have this whole list of things that I wrote up, and I tend not to be an I-oriented person. I tend not to say I did this, I did that, I did that, because really, to do the things that we do in this town, it's a collaborative effort. It takes everybody. Parks Commission, I've come up with a couple ideas, but it's not me by myself that initiates them. It's the Parks Commission that initiates them. We work together as a group. We work together with GVAA to make it work over at Heritage Farm Park. It's a collaborative effort, and that's one of the things I feel is really important. The Board of Commissioners and Burgess that we've spent the last 3 years together, we're a cooperative, collaborative group. Yes, we don't always agree. Yes, we have had some heated conversations, but that's okay. We all bring something different to the table, and we all bring different experiences. And that's important because everyone in the town has different experiences and brings different things. So we need to remember that we're a collaborative group. I will say, if you look at the town parks, that is a passion of mine. Trees, sustainability, town parks are something that are very important. We are working on an all-inclusive playground over at Creamery Park that will be truly ADA accessible. That's one of the grants that myself and the town manager worked on writing that we got money for. That Creamery Park is used a lot by town kids too. So the basketball hoops are not the same size. Someone brought that to us. Okay, well, we need to fix that. So we're gonna redo the basketball court. We're gonna add a half court. But that's just not me doing it. That's all of us, and that's town input. Those are citizens' input. Oh, okay, because I don't go over there and play basketball. I'm not good at basketball. So, LED streetlights, my thing. I started that. It is done with grants, and we do some every year. If it's not saving the town money, it's helping the environment by using a little less. I try and do sustainability things, and I think it's important that we try and increase those sustainability things that we do in the town. Shredding is something else that we started, and a shred event benefits all the citizens. So town input is important to me. Citizens coming to me or coming to any of us, bringing their input is very important, and I hope you consider that when you vote on Monday. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all very much. I would be remiss to not mention that John Zimmerman, who is the town commissioner, could not be here this evening, and Gary Baker, who is a former town commissioner, could not be here this evening. They're both running for office. I believe there's information in the back. You're all welcome to stay and mingle and talk to the candidates and get to know them better. Otherwise, thank you all very much and have a safe trip home. Great Treasure Fair, starting Tuesday is the royalty contest.